That's what we really had to get. Hydration doesn't seem to be that noticeable. I think she had around that down. All right. Any other questions? Well, we have ready. I notice she's going to straighten up. Here's else going to come.
Wow.
She's paying it.
She doesn't like that.
It's not your turn yet. So this is Cairo. She's a red-tailed hawk. She is non-flighted, so she cannot fly. If y'all can notice, this wing she's not holding it up against her body. They need symmetry on both sides in order to be able to fly, just like an airplane. And if you can imagine being out in a rowboat, 2 different size oars, and you're rowing, you're just going to do this. So she's not able to, effectively hunt. She can't fly. She's been with me probably about 10 years now. She came in as an adult, so I would guess maybe she's 15 at this point. And the red-tailed hawks, I would say majority of any of the other larger raptors, pretty much just say 30 years and beyond in captivity, since there's no pressure. One of the things I want to point out, anatomically, the difference between owls and hawks, one of the first things I've noticed are their eyes. So the owls, they're set forward just like ours, so they've done that depth perception. And that's because of the way they hunt. As Ed said, they'll perch and pounce. The hawks, they're set more on the side because they soar and they fly when they hunt. So they need to be able to see, but they also need to be able to make sure nothing's coming up behind them. Because there are other, for example, great horned owl will prey on these guys as well. These red-tails get mistaken a lot for red-shoulders up in the sky. They're up there, you can't really tell. The one thing that you can really tell is not a red-tail is if the hawk is vocalizing. The red shoulders are loud. They're like, if y'all are dog people, they're like the chihuahuas in the hawk world. Because everything, they've got to announce themselves. The red tails to me are more like labs. They're just kind of chill and comfortable, and pretty much go with the flow. But if you look up from the sky, one of the things you will notice, all of them have, hers is very light, but there's this belly band here. So there's little spots. That little cross kind of like the cummerbund. The different colors are a little bit darker spots. But also, if you look on the leading edge of that wing, there's a dark stripe. So if you see that up in the sky, that's going to be a red tail. What else? They hunt rodents, small mammals. Falconers use these birds a lot when they go out and hunt. Even though they're large hawks, I've seen them chase squirrels around the tree for humbug. Believe it or not, they kind of tuck, and it's an amazing thing. They are partial migrators, so obviously because our environment's a little milder here, the ones here are going to bother to migrate, but farther up north, they'll tend to migrate to better environments when it's cold up there. Now, these hawks do vary wildly in their plumage. They're all kind of essentially the same, but even throughout an individual lifetime, as they age, their plumage can change, just right here. The one thing I did learn being this close to her was when they're younger, their eyes are really light colored, kind of light brownish, but as they age, they get darker. And that's how we can kind of tell the age. And what I've noticed with her, since I've had her so long, it's not an all over color change. It's gradual. It's like a gas tank, float. It just kind of, there's a line where she has two different colors up and down. So, wouldn't know that typically without being as close as I am to her. When I first got her, she's the first animal I've ever worked with, first raptor. Thought to myself, Desiree, you could start with something smaller. Fine, but go big, go home. She's got really good temperament. That's one of the things that we look at when introducing birds as or even having thought of birds as an education animal. We want to make sure they don't stress out. They do pretty well in front of people, and she seems to. She's like very young, she's been out this for a while. But what I just did was operate conditioning like you would work with your dog. But instead of using dog biscuits, I used little tidbits of beef. And so I had to. She said she's not her circle, I know that word. But mine's not long enough to keep from getting up. So we just start with, I load the treat, so she'd know when she did good. And so it was a long process because I wanted to go slow at her pace, build that trust, because part of our goal and part of our duty to these animals is making sure they're healthy. And in order to be able to do that, we need to be able to handle them safely. And I feel like because of that and the trust, I can handle her feet, look at her feet, because they do get bumblefoot, just like chickens do, if they're on the wrong protein material. So that's, comfortable for them. Something you have to treat, but if we can prevent it, then we absolutely need to. She'll send a foot bath, or she's hooded. I put a hood on her because they're very visual, and that just seems to really calm them. So it's just kind of a mask, if you will, over their head without their vision. I can file her talons down because they're not in the vial. So another thing that we have to do, we'll have to coat their beak, like Ed was talking about, because they don't, even though they have natural perching materials, it's just not the same as being out in the wild and catching like prey. And then the same thing with the talons, you have to sometimes maybe file them back a little bit so they don't grow. Anybody have any questions?
Are the tail and the shoulder, are they about the same size too? Or is it?
No, the shoulders are a lot smaller.
Yeah.
But it's not obvious when you see one fly.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And it's not until they get their second adult plumage in that they actually have a red tail. So all oxen originals are just not red, brown, and white. And we have bred and believe that.
Oh, you look amazing.
First, as juveniles will find their own territory. If you're passing through another raptor's territory, it's kind of like, hey, I'm just passing through a conflict, and then there's usually not a conflict. That's for you, not for me.
So this is Rusty. He is an American kestrel, and we know he's a male because of these pretty gray blue wings. The kestrel is one of the few North American raptors where just by sight you can tell whether it's male or female, because typically there's no sexual dimorphism between raptors, but there is. That was his comment on the whole. So the female American kestrel, the brown and black pattern just continues onto the wings. They're beautiful too, but I think if he were a dog, his American kennel name would be Ear Splitter Jones, because that was him screaming in the back. Small bird, big noise. You gotta make a lot of noise when you're small. These guys typically in the wild have a life expectancy of less than 4 years because they are really delicious, crunchy snacks for bigger raptors. I think they can live as long as 14 years, possibly longer. in the situation he's in, where, you know, these birds tend to be at the top of their weight because they're getting room service from us daily and living the easy life, not expending a lot of time hunting. At my place, he eats chicken hearts and, oh gosh, small mice and super worms. They really like worms too. Out in the wild, they are really amazingly acrobatic flyers, kind of like the kites. They can catch dragonflies on the wing and eat them while they're flying. They're really cool birds. This is actually a member of the falcon family. This is not a hawk. This is North America's smallest and most common falcon. Anybody got any questions about them? I just feel like I'm hammering facts at you. Yes.
Are they native to this area?
Absolutely. They are. You can find them all over North America, and some of them migrate, some of them don't. It just depends. Sort of like us. It depends on how cold a place they've chosen as a home, because the more northerly ones tend to migrate.
During the winter months, basically, you go out east of I-35, you'll see them sitting on a power line, but you'll go back thinking just another dove. But they are very common in the winter months, and then there are a few that just stay around. Best time to see them. Like Taylor Hutto or something like that, just going around crazy. If you see just one long bird that sits up straight like that, it's probably a pheasant. If there's 2 or 3 of them, it's a dove. It's sitting with its belly on the wire, it's a dove.
I see it all.
Yeah, I live on a rural property, but my neighbors know when I check this guy out. I mean,
I actually saw one a couple days ago on a power line up in
Pflugerville, yes. So, are we coming out, because I'm
Yeah.
worried about time.
We're gonna try to go through everybody and then we'll take them out.
Yeah, we can take them out individually when we're done. Any other quick questions about kestrels? Well, yes.
Can he fly?
Yeah, well, we don't know. We got him from a different rehabber, and we don't know what his original injury is, but he's not completely flighted. He can fly some, but not well enough to hunt. And if you can't hunt, you don't make it as a bird of prey.
I can fly.
Sorry.
And to everybody, if you don't have a good view, you could also go around and go on the stairs here, just to give you a better view of this area. It's accessible through the gift shop.
Just watch your step over there. Just watch your step. I've been the cable.
This is Dancer, our barn owl.
You can come this way too.
Rhea just got helping you today, next to the bird. She got it out quietly, which is not usual. This one is the one that should have been named Screecher. They've got kind of a blood-curdling scream. One of the things you don't think about with owls is that none of our owls ever make a nest. They're just about the closest you'll see great horned owls in the nest. But that nest was built by a crow or a red-tailed hawk or red-shouldered hawk. They don't build them, they just move in.
They're from California?
Barn owl is named barn owl because that's one of their favorite nesting places in shelters. They eat almost exclusively small rodents. I've never seen one take an insect. But they are a hell of mice. Farmer's got a barn cat that he thinks is really good, and he never sees any mice. The barn owl sitting up there and lost, I ain't satisfied, cat can get the credit as long as I get the mice. Pretty sure this is a male. Males have generally a whiter breast, and the females have more speckles and sometimes brownish. But we could be wrong. But he has not laid an egg, so.
It's like heart-shaped face.
Yeah. The babies are the ugliest baby bird I think you've ever seen. That beak starts up here and goes just down, and then there's these two eyes. They don't have down like the other birds, they just have wet feathers like a newly hatched chick. And they really look like a dinosaur. But they turn into probably one of the most beautiful birds. Turn around and talking to some of the artists. Artists try to paint the back of the barn owl, and they can just never do it justice. Look at all the fine details. And they are pretty. We love them. We don't get many babies in. One of the different things with the barn owl is our other raptors usually lay anywhere from 2 to sometimes 5 eggs. The barn owl, as long as they're getting mice, can lay 10 or 12 eggs before they start incubating. And the eggs are laid a day and a half apart. And if you got 10 eggs that just hatched, is about 2 weeks younger than big brother. The mice stop coming in. Baby's got a problem. Singlicide is common, but sometimes in good years, all of them may do it. But one of the interesting things about the babies is they instinctually know what defensive mechanism that is awfully effective. If mama's not there and they sense some presence, they line up in like a chorus line. They go down and start, I ain't gonna do it, but anyway, they can put their chin down to their toes, with their wings out, swaying while they're hissing like a airplane or jet engine. And it looks like one big long organism of something. I've had 3 times in 30 years of going out in which adults refused to go back into the building or the trailer to even see what it was. So it is a very effective. They never move. They just sit there in the ditch. I have never heard of a predation of barn owl chicks. I'll miss anything.
So they're, we talked about sexual dimorphism not really being there for raptors, like they're songbirds. But as I talked about, the females tend to have more spots. But also, because I have a female at home, and she's a confirmed female because she's sitting on eggs. She does have a lot more spots, and then she's got like this smoky eyeshadow evening look, and not the white face. But the literature is saying that the more spots that female has, the more inclined male is to help at home. With the nest building, rearing, things like that. And their structure, so Ed was talking about the beak going up to here. So if you look at just the skull itself, it looks more like a turkey vulture than the other owls. And in regards to like the plumage and the camouflage, they think about it, they really don't have camouflage like other owl screech, right when we're gonna get out. But the thought is because they nest in structures, they really didn't develop a need for it because they're not trees. Obviously, snowy owls, they're out and they're in the snow, so they're white. So that worked for them, but these guys really didn't need to develop any kind of camouflage.
All owls pretty well fly south with a special structure on the leading edge of the working elders. This one though is the most silent of the owls and has the best hearing. And so they are, okay, they may have, let's say, 8 to 10 baby chicks. Female stays with the babies. Male has to go hunt at night, go get dogs. And if he's got 8 babies, that petite baby may need 5 or 6 mice a night at an age. The youngest one's 1 mouse is okay, but he may need to bring back 40 or 50 mice that he catches within commuting distance of the nest every night for 3 months. So you can't run out of mice at all. So there, where they live is out in good prairie land and agricultural areas that's got mice. You won't see me in time. There's a guy.
So they don't need insects?
I have never seen or heard a report of them going after grasshoppers or anything, but of course that's at night, but I haven't even heard of them going after a lizard or something at night. They're reportedly just after mice like toads. Yeah.
You don't have it? So this is Willie. He's a Swainson's hawk. They don't tend to nest here, but they do migrate through here. Let's see if I can get him to spread his wings. So you'll notice that this wing isn't as long as that one. It's because Willie was found by a gentleman out in Mason County underneath the power line, and we think that he landed wrong on the power line and completed his search and electrocuted himself, blew off part of his wing. He's also missing a talon on this foot. And if the missing talon were his only problem, he'd be fine. He'd be released back into the wild. As a matter of fact, that's his dominant foot. Birds, like people, have, are right or left-handed. So when I toss him a mouse every morning, he catches it in that foot that's missing a talon. However, you need symmetrical wings in order to fly. You can't fly, you can't hunt, you don't live. So he's getting room service for me because that's just it. So these guys really like to hunt in open grasslands and hayfields, prairies, things like that. So you'll find them in grasslands as far north as southern Canada, even over in Colorado, places like that. You won't find them over on the East Coast. So I was really surprised at one presentation, a guy from Massachusetts knew what type of bird this was. I'm like, how? You don't have them. But he was just a hawk nut. Sorry, his tail's a little mussed up. He's kind of grouchy. It's hormone season. So these guys, as I said, some of them live in far north of southern Canada, and they'll come up to North America and nest. And when it starts getting cooler, they'll migrate south down to Argentina, Uruguay, and they don't fly in a straight line over the water. They follow the land, they go through the Isthmus of Panama. So for a Canadian nesting Swainson's hawk, that is a one-way trip of about 7,000 miles. So a 14,000 mile round trip, imagine spending 4 months of your year traveling back and forth between your winter and summer home. So down south in Argentina, their favorite meal is the 6-inch long grasshoppers. Yeah, I know. Thank God we don't have grasshoppers. I wouldn't be a fan. But they are known as the farmer's friend because they will fly behind tractors. The tractors stir up the grasshoppers in the field and they just dive after the grasshoppers and dive on them. Sort of in a similar vein, if you know Bracken Cave or near San Antonio, where all the bats live, you will see Swainson's hawks hunting the bats as they emerge or come back to the cave. So that's a great shape of us. He was found in Mason County, which is north of here. So the oldest one so there was a tagging program, and the oldest one that was recaptured in the wild was 26 years and 9 months. So I'm gonna have to make provisions for him in my will because he's only about 7 or 8 years old. Yeah, he might outlive me. It's got this neat trick. Let's see if he'll do it. There we go. Somebody's being watched like a hawk. I don't know. But if you're perched on a limb that's sort of bouncing in the wind, and you're focused in on prey, you gotta keep your head still, right? So. Why are these people? Yeah, why are these people looking at me? Trying to think what else I can say about Willie. Any questions about it? Because I know we've got a big gun coming up next. I don't want to run out of time.
This is one that does migrate over in large numbers, but they will be up high using thermals. Without binoculars, it's hard to distinguish them from some of the other hawks that may be in the thermals. So they come over, but unlike the kites that are just over treetops, these are up in the thermals.
Yeah, that's why they don't fly over you don't get the thermals over the water like you do over the land, so that's why they follow the land mass.
When they migrate, do they migrate together? How many of them are going toward themselves?
There are times down at Corpus Christi when golf watch there with 400,000 a day.
And they'll travel in companies with other types of hawks too. It's not Swainson's hawks alone, they'll travel with others.
So you said 4 months. Does that mean it takes about 2 months to make the trip one way?
Yeah. And the male comes first, and they have pretty good territorial and mate fidelity. They tend to return to the same nesting area, and they will mate for life. He was injured as a juvenile, so he had not mated. So there's no one out there visiting and wondering why he doesn't. Yeah. So we've got a really big one coming up. You want to work your way up here and get out of the way? All right.
Sit upright, kind of chicken slot right.
Yeah.
It's her nap time. I'm sure you all know when I've died, right? Her name is Luna, and I call her a she. Honestly, I don't know. I've worked with one other gray cornell that was a lot smaller, and obviously males tend to be smaller. I mean, that's one of the differences between males and females. There are not many that you can tell outwardly. She has not laid eggs, so I can't confirm that. She is a lot heavier than the last one I worked with.
She gets heavier.
She gets heavier. You'll see me doing this in a minute. Even though she's called a great cornell, obviously those are not horns, they're just feathers. The thought is that they are used in communication as well as, I don't quite understand this comment, but camouflage. 'Cause there's not a predator other than us for these great horns. That's why you see them sitting out on top of the tree. You're like, try it. Not action. Can't tell, a lot heavier beak than the other owls that we've had out, and a lot bigger feet. So larger prey, right? Other raptors, they'll go after them. Small mammals, and even something as small as a rodent, you know, sometimes. Skunks, something as big as a skunk. They can take them down because they're pretty efficient hunters. They're known as, you know, tigers of the sky, just because they're so efficient. Again, as I said, perch and pounce, and what they normally do, they want to be able to intercept at a point where they believe the prey is going to be. So for those who are worried about their small dogs out at night, you know, dogs are led by their noses, and so they're kind of erratic. Owls don't like that. They want to be able to predict so they can intercept. And what they'll normally do is come in from behind, one foot on the skull, the other one on the flying around the lungs, and that's how they end the show.
Stop. And try to kill the skunk before the skunk realizes.
I'm not sure. It came in as an adult, so we really don't know. But if you notice, like, and it's really prevalent on the gray horns, that they have that facial disc. A little bit different shape than the barn owl that we talked about, but that helps funnel the sound towards their ears. And there are some species, especially the barn owl, that has offset ears. So, and I can't remember which is which, but one side is down, pointing forward, the other side is higher, pointing back. So it helps them triangulate where their prey is going to be, and helps them see in the dark. Obviously, the large eyes help them see. But they also have structures called rods and cones in their eyes. We have them as well, but because we're diurnal and we're out during the day, we have more cones in our cone structures in our eyes. It helps us see in bright light, see detail. The owls are going to have more rods in their eyes that helps them see at lower light, and it makes them a little more efficient. Their flight feathers. Their flight feathers, the edges are serrated, so it helps muffle the sound so they're silent. Her wingspan is 3.5, 4 feet, sometimes up to 5, depending on the individual. So unfortunately, my arm is not long enough to keep me from being hit in the head when she does this, but that's okay. And she is not flighted. As you can see, she holds this one down a lot farther than this one. She tucks it up as you normally would see on any raptor. So she's not releasable. What else?
What is she doing? Is she indicating her displeasure?
A little bit. She's a little cranky. This is her nap time. It'd be like a dog panting. I know. But they can, so the misnomer is they can turn their head all the way around. It's actually about 270 degrees. It just looks like they would be able to. They've got more vertebra than we do, which allows them to get more swing in it.
Is there a particular reason why a female one won't be producing eggs? Or
it could be environmental pressure. I mean, if you think about maybe like a pie chart, so in 3, split it in 3, you've got growth, reproduction, and maintenance. And so those pie pieces can differ depending on the environmental pressure. So if you don't have sufficient food, you know, things are kind of scarce, stuff is dry, you're going to have most of that pie taken up by maintenance. And so reproduction is going to be, right? Obviously, when animals are young and babies, most of that's going to be the growth, right? And so if there's not enough food, things like that, why produce eggs if we can't feed them? What else? Her feet, so obviously large, but this is the only owl that I've worked with or that I've seen that has feathers all the way down to her toes. The rest of the owls that we've had here look like little reptilian feet, little lizard feet. But obviously, I mean, if you can see how big they are, so she's pretty good at, there you go. Now she's showing off her feet. She's like, oh, I heard the camera. Now she's letting herself. Owls, unless, because she was an adult, she's not quite as cooperative as the hawk I had out earlier. I think I've only known of one falconer that has actually tried to hunt with a trained great horned owl. Not sure what his beef was against himself, but these guys don't really need anybody. I mean, the hawks don't either, but for some reason they have less attitude. Any questions?
Is there like anything they can do, like as a cat, like, you're welcome to go.
Yeah, I've tried that, and she's like, no. And what's hard to notice, and the hawks have this too, so around their beaks they have little, I'm gonna call them hairs because they're stiff, but they're there to protect their eyes, from dust and they also have nictitating membrane, kind of like lizards that covers their eyes as they go in for, prey. Get your right more alcohol. Try.
What is these?
She gets a rat every evening. She gets a thawed out rat. And don't worry, I've got the coffee mug, labeled from the mug so nobody can
I was going up to my cat wall, whatever, and how much can they actually carry?
They can carry something a lot heavier than they are.
What they can do is climb a tree, carry it, a skunk. Right, a skunk is nothing 8-9 pounds, and that's on the floor. But they can't fly with the skunk, but they can get it out in the tree. So we can still walk around. And he says, a cat going across an open field thinks he's the hunter. She can come in behind him and swoop down. The cat never knows. Same way as the skunk. But low to wall first, it's usually not out in an open field, not in the backyard where they're running around like a low wall. She gets down watching. She can't figure out what's going on. That's just not a good one. One of these gets injured, trying to take prey that they can't dispatch quickly. They're gonna die in a while. Well, there's no vets for them, so very seldom see an animal try to take down a prey that's really dependency. They won't prey that they can safely get time after time. So they're not that, the feet and all, and this one is used to kill, but most of their weapons are really defending territory against their own species. That's what the fox get into. So they're not as dangerous to pets and all. Chickens at night. We used to have a lot of big rural areas where they were raising biting cocks. That big little dog house, you might have seen a bunch of them with a rooster tethered to each one. And great horned owl just loved it, which they started, I think, game wardens were about stopped it. The owners of biting cocks would put snare traps up on telephone poles, which would end up cutting the leg off the owl. Highly illegal. I think that's been stopped. about fighting for a long time, I don't know. Back in the 90s, that was considered just property. But that's, chickens are about the only thing that you don't have a chicken coop covered and put them in the coop. Yes, they'll fit down.
Can you address briefly what we would do if we found, saw an owl hit on the side of the road, or I know we're not allowed to even pick them up, you can't even take them if they're dead.
Yes,
Because they're protected, right?
Can't take them if they're dead because you're dead possession, but there is an exemption to get it to a rehab. Calling me and telling me you saw one on the road, it's alive. I'm going to do nothing because by the time I get out there, I can't find it.
Alright.
So you do need to take it, and there is an exemption as long as you're doing it. But the only safe thing with a raptor is like a towel or something, is to throw it over them, and they instinctively grab. And if they grab the towel, they're not going to let go. Don't bet your life. Yeah, kind of burrito above. But if the thief gets you with a great horned owl, you've got a problem. It's not going to endanger your life, but you might, if you got a gun, you might shoot yourself. They hurt. You can't pry the thief apart. So with that, make sure you've got a place to put it and everything before you can start that. When you have smaller hawks, if they hold on, it's a little safer. I will add, because I saw hanging back there, a great blue heron. I'll throw this in off the subject, but a great blue heron is probably one of the most dangerous birds there is. Because a great blue heron has got a long neck that spear fishes and can go through a fish, underwater. And they instinctively know where the eyes of the predator are. And so, we're handling great blue herons, it's with a full face mask. The egret's not as bad. I had one get my safety glasses. And then my glasses slid off the flat in the eye and slid off and cut my nose. And yes, when I'm handling herons, they can change your life. This one's going to make a million to die. It's not going to be faithful. So that's the only two birds I think that if you find there's a coot, kind of a water bird, that try to pick up a coot, you will understand where the old man is an old coot. They're very defensive.
They actually have claws on their feet.
But in general, find something, try to get him contained. Cardboard box, covered with a towel, pick the towel and all in there, and then start calling. Okay, 4 o'clock was kind of our time.
Yeah.
Well, we work under AAWR, Austin Area Wildlife Rehab. But the only thing we were rehabbing is hawks and owls. There's an organization that I've been a member of 35 years, Austin Wildlife Rescue, that takes in everything. We swap things around. So if it's hawk or owl, give us a call. Otherwise, I live in Cedar Park. They go out. So I take names from neighbors and all that. Yes, wildlife rescue myself.
And some of them live in homes, or do they?
I had the owl lived in my home, and so that was an exception and one that wasn't. No, we got walking cages. They stay with us. other questions?
We're gonna be walking around.
Yeah, we'll get something out of it. But there's gonna be a talk late back.
Thank you guys, thank you so much. First annual, Burning Man 2026. We have a few more presentations, and we're delighted to have you and appreciate the Avian world with you together today.
I also want to give everybody the option of going on the stairs. I'll give plenty of seats so everybody can scoot in, give everybody ample room to take a seat.
Yeah, I'm gonna start recording again. Yeah. But it doesn't stop recording, like it just makes it.
Well, again, thank you everybody for being here.
It doesn't stop recording.
Thank you to the folks.
Sure?
Like Ed, for bringing on the birds. I think we all enjoyed that.
Maybe you're right.
You can exit through the very, well, actually,
This one we get.
no, it has a lock. Yeah.
Okay, we get out.
The other camera, the other camera. Up there. Okay.
All right. So I'm co-hosting this event alongside Bob and Juan from our shared love of art and birds and spirituality. This event is really coming together at the intersection of those three things. And so it's really beautiful that everybody's here today, enjoying the birds, enjoying spring, in community. And I'm just going to kick off this event really quickly with a presentation, giving a little bit of background into why we're here. And so I'm going to pose these specific questions to everybody. What is the human and bird relationship? How has it changed over time? And ultimately, how can we improve it? The intention is to expand our vision of bird art community action, especially at a time when the world faces increasing threats from human encroachment and activities. And so to look ahead, I want to quickly look back. Of course, how wonderful are the birds? Humans and birds have always lived within view of one another, in the same ecosystem, yet so apart. Birds being the survivors of an old world, one long gone by the time humans came about, they still have a magical quality about them, and it's clear enough that our ancestors felt the same. Their ability to fly gives them a power humans could only dream of until 100 years ago. They populate this world with such diversity, they help make it beautiful, colorful, they inspire wonder. Yet, the human and bird relationship did not begin so positively. Of the earliest relationship between man and bird, it was one of predator and prey. Humans ate birds, they made ornaments out of their bones and feathers, and even painted them in caves alongside other animals. Everything changed with agriculture roughly 10,000 years ago with the domestication of many animals, including pigeons, first for their food, later for communication. There are more than 300 species of pigeon, with an additional 800 subspecies of domesticated rock doves, often called fancy pigeons. Please look into this. It's the craziest thing. It's really good. Rock doves were among the first birds to be domesticated. Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets mention their domestication, as do Egyptian hieroglyphs. Birds were also abound in the Bible and the Quran, with stories such as the dove returning with the olive branch, having found land after the flood. Many Native American and indigenous traditions worldwide associate birds with profound symbolism, creation myths, and lessons. Birds were almost everywhere associated with spiritual meanings, seen as messengers from the gods. Birds were observed and recorded in the human world, but not yet systemically studied. Yet, despite these observations, birds were often misunderstood. In the aftermath of the Renaissance period, European exploration expanded species records. Early work like Ornithologia Libra Stress from 1676 aimed to create rational systems. In the 1750s, Carl Linnaeus developed the binomial classification system, giving each species a standardized two-part scientific name. This was during a time when the New World, the Western Hemisphere, was being drastically transformed. The then long-held Western idea of birds in nature existing only to serve human wants was beginning to change. One key figure in this shift was John James Audubon, an artist and naturalist who produced some of the most detailed studies of North American birds. His landmark work, The Birds of America, was published between 1827 and 1838 and featured life-size illustrations based on direct observation. His illustrations were groundbreaking, not only for their precision, but for depicting birds in dynamic, natural settings, often with nests and young offering one of the earliest vivid records of North American wildlife and reshaping how people understood and valued the natural world. Audubon accomplished such lifelike depictions by spending over a decade traveling across the eastern and southern U.S. by foot, boat, and carriage, shooting the birds after sufficiently observing them to collect their bodies for reference, painting them before eating or discarding the carcass. In the same period, the widespread killing of birds, especially for fashion, eventually sparked the modern conservation movement. In the late 1800s, millions of birds were being hunted for their feathers, which were used to decorate hats. Published outrage helped lead to the creation of the National Audubon Society, and eventually to laws protecting migratory birds. The more people learned about birds, the more it made sense to protect them. And so from the 1850s to the early 1900s, something important happened. Binoculars became widely accessible, opening up a more personal, intimate view of birds. Field guides spread, as did photography, and in turn, in the past 100 years, birdwatching or birding has become one of the most popular nature hobbies in the world, with millions of people contributing observations through platforms like eBird, helping scientists track migrations, population changes, and the effects of climate change. Birds are incredibly useful in science. They serve as indicators of ecosystem health. When bird populations decline, it often signals larger environmental problems, pointing us to how interconnected the entire ecosystem really is. For birding is not just about science. Birding points us to something deeper. When we take a moment to watch birds, we are reminded of the seasons, of an invitation to be with nature. Birds and their song have meant so much to humanity. Birding is both ancient and modern, and if we do our part as birders and community members, birding will be the future. For in such relatively short time, so much has changed, and so much more can change still. So what I wish to convey is that we are all capable of making a difference. I'm given a lot of hope that all of us have gathered together here for that purpose, to learn, help protect, and better connect with birds. Thank you. I'm going to hand it over to Cameron Kennedy. She's going to give us a great presentation on galliforms and her experience.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming out to Burning Man. It's great to see all your faces. My name is Cameron and I'm going to be talking to you today about some of the work I've got to do on bird conservations and bird research, specifically highlighting two species, the greater sage grouse and plain chachalapas. So a little bit about myself. I'm Cameron. I'm a field biologist who's lived in Austin for 14 years. And I've had the pleasure of getting to train birds of prey and educate people about birds and conservation, some things that I really love. And I've also gotten to work on a couple of bird-centered research projects that I'll talk more about. So, there's a lot of different types of birds, and the ones that I've become most acquainted with through my work belong to a group or order of birds called galliforms. Both the greater sage grouse, right here, the greater sage grouse hen, and the plain chachalaca are members of this group. So, to give a little bit of context, galliforms are a group or order of birds which include many game birds that you may be familiar with, like turkeys, quail, pheasants, and chickens, often referred to as landfowl. Some of the shared characteristics they all have. They have heavy bodies, strong legs, and short rounded wings, which are designed for little bursts of flight to escape predators. Many of them are terrestrial, and they feed on the ground, but a couple species live in the trees. A lot of them show sexual dimorphism, which means that the males and females of the same species can look very different. Think of a male peacock and a female peahen, for example. The reason that galliforms are really important are, well, first, they're critical to global food security. 70 to 74 billion chickens are harvested annually for their meat, and we also eat a lot of eggs and turkey meat as well. They provide a lot of value to hunters as game birds too. And beyond this, they're ecologically important. They feed on insects, grains, seeds, and plants, which promotes seed dispersal and helps out plant populations. And they're an important source of prey for a lot of predators, which supports a robust and complex food web. So there's a whole lot to be grateful for when it comes to these birds, and they're very valuable and are the focus of a lot of research and conservation efforts. So, to introduce the first bird I'll be highlighting, this is the greater sage grouse, a very unique galliform. As you can see from this video, they have an elaborate mating display. The males have this unique courtship ritual, and they'll gather on the historic communal breeding grounds called leks, and they will dance and display for the females. The female hens will keep coming back to visit the leks, carefully observing all the males before they decide which they find to be the most attractive. And oftentimes, all of the females will choose the same one or two males to be their mate. So the other ones have to put a little more practice in. They have a unique diet as well. So sagebrush is a plant that is toxic to most animals, but they are adapted to eat and digest it, and it makes up to 100% of its diet in winter. So they depend on the sagebrush for where they live, their shelter, and also their diet. So they live in the western United States and Canada in sagebrush ecosystems. This right here is a photo of a lek. You can see the 3 males and some female hens observing them and deciding whether they find them attractive. So, the reason that greater sage grouse are important is because they are an umbrella species, which means that protecting their sagebrush habitat has cascading positive effects for over 350 other species, like pronghorn, trout, and migrating songbirds, for example. Some of the largest threats to it are habitat fragmentation and degradation due to converting sagebrush ecosystems into agricultural land and land for livestock grazing, and also oil and gas development. Climate change, wildfires, and invasive plant species like cheatgrass also pose big threats as well. Unfortunately, they now only inhabit less than half of their historic range. The females will return to the same site year after year to make a nest. So if the levy and breeding grounds or the nesting grounds get destroyed, this isn't a bird that can simply adapt and survive. The conservation strategy currently in place focuses on limiting development on lands critical to the survival of the bird in the 11 U.S. states where it still occurs. Also working with private landowners to incentivize protection to introduce the next gal form that I've gotten to research. This is the plain chachalaca, which is a bird you have maybe never heard of unless you've been to the Rio Grande Valley or New Mexico. It is described as a noisy, long-tailed chicken that dwells in the trees, and it's our only representative in the U.S. of this unique tropical tree-dwelling type of gallopon. They eat seeds, berries, fruit, plant matter, and keep all the seeds first. They live in trees, dense thickets and thorny brush and reeds along bodies of water like the Rio Grande, and they also inhabit the wooded suburbs of cities in the Rio Grande Valley. So the reason that these birds are special and unique, despite being called the plain chachalaca, I think there is hardly anything plain about these birds. And I would like to play their song for you because there's a reason they're called chachalaca, and you may otherwise never get to hear it. This is described as hair calling.
Not quite that. Let me see
So yes, very colorful bird with a lot of personality, and they sing in rounds, and they're also unique because they are social and they live in family groups. The birds that we have been successful in capturing, you can tell that they are very loyal to their family groups. So if we catch one, all the others will cry out in distress, demanding that we return their friend. And it's definitely a very interesting sight to behold. They're smart too, and if we catch one in an area, they'll avoid that area for the next week or two. So they learn. Some of the largest threats to plain chachalacas are habitat destruction and fragmentation. They are subsistence hunted, so people hunt them in South Texas and also throughout South and Central America, but that's not nearly as big of a threat as destroying and fragmenting their habitat. Agricultural expansion, urbanization, and deforestation are what's mainly causing these negative effects, and also the construction of the border wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. With the loss of their native habitat, they don't have the essential space they need for shelter, foraging, and nesting, so it's important that we protect the thick, thorny undergrowth and trees in the Rio Grande Valley and focus on having this habitat connected to The conservation focus is to protect and manage reserves, wildlife corridors, and restore their habitat. Also encourage landowners to protect and plant the type of habitat in which they thrive, so they can have safe spaces to meet all their needs. There's a whole lot that we don't know about plain chachalacas, and a comprehensive chachalaca study hasn't been done in over 30 years in Texas. They're generally considered to be a pretty stable and robust species, except the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service listed them as the species of greatest conservation need along the border of the U.S. and Mexico because we don't have a whole lot of information about them, and we think that they can be vulnerable to fragmentation from the development of the border wall. So they've given us some money because they want to understand things like, what are these birds' home ranges? Do they have a large territory, a small territory? How about their abundance and their dispersal? And they want to know what their nesting success is like, about the survival rates of the birds and their young. So we're looking at how land cover, land use, and the border wall barrier are impacting chachalacas. The way we do this is by tracking and tracking the chachas and doing vegetation surveys. The project is also much more than a chachalaca Chocolate Project. It also covers terrestrial wildlife, like different kinds of mammals, migrating songbirds and bats, and looking at how the border wall is affecting all of them too. So while it may be a lot more obvious how the border wall can severely threaten vulnerable land-dwelling species, think jaguars, ocelots, or Texas tortoises, couldn't birds just fly over the wall? Well, yeah, they do have wings, but by thinking this way, we're making assumptions about the way that they move through a landscape. The border wall ranges in height from 18 to 30 feet tall, and many birds fly low over the ground or are ground dwelling, like this great roadrunner here, or scaled quail, plain chachalapas, also fly really low too, and they need brushy cover. The border wall construction risks restricting their ranges and isolating U.S. and Mexico populations that are normally connected and can interbreed. Clearing habitat to make room for the wall creates large open areas with no cover. The wall doesn't just stretch across the desert. It spans through a variety of ecosystems that are very diverse, like thorn scrub, mountains, even mangroves. Artificial lighting from the border wall may also be affecting migrating songbirds, so that's something our research is looking at too. And raptors, like the ones we saw earlier, they perch along the border wall. So while it may be benefiting the raptors, it hurts birds that are trying to make nests in the area, and they need to be more vigilant looking out for those predators that wouldn't otherwise be there. So the process of catching and trying to understand these chachalakas has involved a lot of trial and error, and there's only a handful of publications we've been able to turn to for help. Some of the very most valuable information we've gotten that's helped us to be successful in finding and trapping them has been from locals in the Rio Grande Valley, and also the regular visitors to the parks and wildlife refuges where we work. They've given us helpful information about what kind of food they like to eat, where they can be found in the area at certain times of day, and also some people have even offered to help us by letting us set up traps in their backyard. Really going the extra mile there. This knowledge sharing from personal interactions has been so important and has helped us far more than we could have, way more than if we just been reading the publications that exist on them. And so, in conclusion, you don't have to be a scientist or a field biologist to massively help science, research, and protecting and learning about the birds that we love really includes everyone. Thank you guys so much for your time and attention, and hope you enjoy the rest of our presentation today.
Yeah, and Jane?
Yes.
Yeah, and if everyone can greet Jane, Jane Tillman from Travis Audubon.
Well, this has been really fun so far. I don't know how you, but I love to see the raptors and some brought, and I love to hear about birds that I don't really think about every day at all, or worry about. I didn't know plain chachalakas were, having any issues, but it was greater sage-grouse, yes. But today right now, we're gonna focus on the birds, some of the birds that we might see in offices. So, we have a lot of birds here, and it's hard to choose which ones. So I just, was arbitrary. But I've been a birder now for about 25 years, and I do a lot of outreach for Travis Audubon, which is our local open conservation organization in Austin, and it's focused on bird and also habitat. I'm a master naturalist, I'm a master birder, and I've been very involved in the Native Plant Society, because I just love the intertwining nature of plants and birds, like this magnificent that are out here. So, I loved your talk. That was great, Brian. Why do we care about birds? Well, You know, you can look at it as sort of mundane maybe, but it's not. The fact that they do see this commercial like this ankle and this food they can carry about 7 pounds in its feet. And it was credited with reinforcing the force of North America I say. So, you know, what are some other ecological services that these birds do? Well, they're wonderful at pest control, whether it's caterpillars, or whether it's wasps, or whether it's grasshoppers, like we heard from the swings and hawks in South America. Pollination, they help with pollination, not so much, you know, but we do have hummingbirds. Pollination is really in the tropics, we do have this more, but they probably do more than we're aware of. So, but what do they do for us, you know, like on a social level or a spiritual level? Why do all of birds? Or do you like birds? Did they poop on you or your car?
Their bird song.
Their bird song, yeah, I'm very much an earbirder, and I don't know what I'd do if I could hear pachalakas or just really getting outside, even in this kind of environment. There should be somebody out there singing. So we have song, crazy behaviors like the legs, you know, the grass, go through. What else? I mean, what's apparent in the articles here? The color and the beauty, yeah. The color is really wonderful. It's so diverse. Behavior images. So the other one that I think of is the blue-fairy. They're just remarkable. You know, they are really little dinosaurs. And it's fun to look at them in that way. But I just think the fact that we have over 11,000 species in the world, and they all have slightly different species, so they're all survive. It's just very beautiful. And the more learners that we have out there, the more coverage we're getting as a state, the more findings and prizes. So it's pretty exciting time to be a bird. But here we are, you know, in Austin, and we're right at the junction of several different ecosystems. So Austin is a great place to bird. We have, you know, the birds in the hill country, which this is right here is kind of on the cusp. And as you go west from here, definitely hill country. And then we also have the blackledge prairies coming down more on the east side of town. And then you can feel some days when the wind is from the south, I feel like we're kind of close. You know, we're really close to the south Texas plains, but really just kind of right below San Antonio. But some of those birds get lost and they show up here. And then the Gulf Coast too, you know, so it's really a great place to bird. And so far we have recorded 432 different species. In a good year, if you were really out there trying to do a big year for Travis County, you could maybe get 305 species. But you probably won't get them all. That would be pretty, you would have to do it full time and just do wildlife. So, you know, there are that many species, why don't we see them? Why don't you see these birds? Why do you not see these birds like I'm interested? You know? It's like they're just there. It's that red bird. Or that cute little bird that comes and bounces along my deck, you know, or lands on my balcony. So, you know, find the great horned owl in this picture. So, okay, you can see it. Can you all see it? Yeah, right tucked in there. So, you know, if you weren't looking, you might not notice it. I did watch a raccoon one time, and it was down in grass like this, and it looked to me like it was eating the eggs. Probably some nesting bird that had left the nest for just a little while. And she was probably on the eggs right there. And then can you see the owl in this picture? This one's a little covered. And you know, they end up eating like branches. Like that's another great one back there. So it's just facing the road from us. So, you know, birds don't really want to be seen. That's their time to attract.
Hi,
So right now, birds are typically not being are out showing stuff. And one of them that we really
know who best is the red client. So, because they do understand how, where they're very exposed. It's risky for them. So, females sometimes have the longer one. They're more used. So, in Texas, just like anywhere, we have certain birds that are here year round. All their needs are met. You know, they're very happy to live in this particular neighborhood. And here it is, the card. So, it is, the male is red, the female is just natural browns in her, and she's gonna sit on the nest. And I don't have a lot to say about that, in her birthday, we didn't get done, but, it will sing, and the female also sings. Up till the last, I don't know, 200 years, the assumption was that the males were going to sing. And I also find that females in many species, so we're having to re-examine that whole issue across the temperate zone. We have Carolina chickadees. They're a sort of puffy little bird about 5 inches long. They weigh about a third of an ounce, and their call is chickadee. And there's actually a hard piece that somebody did of the chickadee. But the chickadee, the number of DVDs after it starts chickadee, that's conveying the level of alarm. The danger that they're perceiving is higher. If they see a little screech out like that will carry a lot of DVDs. Whereas if it's just you or me, they're going to know that familiar face.
Okay, so you're gonna have to.
Hey, Mama. So what they love sunflowers and that. What about this guy? This is one of our songs. He'll even sing through the night. Those sometimes choose with feeding others. But anyway, the ones who sing all night are probably animated. And they're just trying their best. And their song shows it's the fact that they can go for so many hours singing and maybe it's but too many songs and they are lifelong learners. I had a rare bird in my yard back in 2010. She's violet. And after we
So just come here anytime after this week or after when the exhibition.
They love berries. They will just be new to berry. They'll pile off the stalk, cedar wax things right away. Stay near you.
Month goes by. Yes. And you can come in and
Then they have the piping up. So, one of the dove family. This one's about 12 inches. You know, it used to be one of our best birders, Eric Carpenter, remembers when he went to chase his first wagon dove, and now, you know, they're done with it. Well, what happened was in 1983, the citrus crops started down in the valley, and those birds lost their nesting sites. That's how we ended up with these birds. Some things say, no, it sounds like out. So some people tell me that they're hearing owls all around the world. You don't hear, they don't have the density. The owl don't have the density. And abundance is the doves do. And then, because this is an art show and I know people like it crazy, we're in here trying to embrace our birds and things we don't otherwise love. So the great-tailed grass, Captain and Nick, the female, there are many more, it's much more female weighted, there are more female than there are males. Because the females only use about half the number of foods than the males do. So, and the females are very fat, always include a female. But the males are the ones that I think best behavior next to see how, I don't know how lucky they do it all as a group again. A group of males. When you think about it, and they fly, canted like this, they fly at a 45-degree angle. These long tails that are so attractive to the female, that's a sexual selection. You know, the females are driving that. So it might make them less maneuverable, so that you can get caught by a hooper fox much more easily than other foxes. And here we have our beloved turkey vulture that people call buzzard. We have two different vultures. We have the turkey vulture, which birding classes, and it's like one thing we should be able to do is identify a turkey vulture and how it looks different from our other normal black vulture. So keep an eye out for a bird that has white all along the trailing edge of the underwing, a pretty long tail. And if you look really hard, you can see its red head. And they're mainly, they are moved around, but many of them move through here and migrate all the way down to other ones in South America. So they're on their way back, and we are seeing some small tracks of vultures going on. And then, you know, everybody is familiar with house sparrows. And house sparrows go chirp. But we have a lot of other sparrows. They're native sparrows. That house sparrow was introduced to the U.S. back in the 1600s. But these guys are indigenous. This is the one, my favorite one, that spends the night with us. They're very muted in coloration. There's a lot of work. They're just really brown nesting. And brown, they're just on the ground, basically, and in low brush piles. We have 23 species of sparrows that actually can be found in the Austin area at different times through the year. And this is one of the best. And another genus of birds that birds that we really enjoy more so during migration. So we have two that's in there winter with us, a yellow warbler and a corn. So this is called the buttercup. This is the backside of a little yellow warbler. This is the so we have lots of them, and they have a very distinct hallmark, and those important that are. But the cool thing about this bird is, as it's getting towards time for them to migrate, they got here in October, November, and there's probably some of them pretty soon. They begin to molt their feathers, their winter plumage, and they become black. They're very fragile. Yes. You know, the little crab, little birds, kind of, really. They're just one that looks mostly like it's pretty impressive to see. So, those are some of our examples of our permanent residents and few winter residents. But then we are moving right now into the most exciting time of the year, exhausting if you're a crazy bird. You don't want to miss a day. Because migration is underway. So we have the initial stages, and so basically what we have showing up in Austin right now are birds. They're probably just wintered somewhere close to Mexico. They're beginning to move to Austin. And then as the season progresses, birds are coming up from even southern South America, and they'll be moving through various flyways, and they'll probably hopscotch over these that are local breeders, you know, to continue on. So we have medium distance migrants, we have long distance migrants, and the whooping cranes are a good example of a medium distance. They summer up here in Alberta, in Wood Buffalo National Park. They winter on the Gulf Coast, Upper Texas coast. So you're familiar with them. We don't move them very often in travel. And if you do see one, they're really real. And then we have the really long ones. I'll mention a few as we get through this. But migration started about mid-January, and it'll go on to about end of May, but really sometimes into like June, halfway through June. And then it starts again in July when a lot of shorebirds start coming back through. And it goes through to December. Usually the guideline is if it's after Christmas, they're still here probably over winter in our area. They're not meant to go. So we have birds like, here's a crazy bird. This is a Hutchonian violet that goes all the way from Alaska out over the Atlantic to go down into South America. Crazy. Into the black-polled warbler. It's a tiny little bird. We get a few, they're rare in Austin, but, that's why for 3 days we pretty much look out where we get that stuff. Pretty amazing. So we have birds that go around the Gulf, circle the Gulf, and we have birds that fly across the Gulf. Both ways are happening. Everybody's in the okay. So, really a very species, so about half of the 7 that you see in Texas are what we call migrants. They're moved in North America and New World. And so that's why they call them migrants. One that's an early arrival and they're singing now, 3 up, 3 down, 3 up, 3 down, is the yellow-throated deer. So if you want to go to like Commons 4, or St. Ed's, or Illinois, you'll hear those things. And these are called passive migrants. Some of them are going to just move through here. So that's my next category. Like this little magnolia, they don't ever breathe. The yellow grapes, this is magnificent, right? Korean warbler. It's got a very warm throat, and they're again not for the breeder, they're only passive breeders. And we're getting a better handle on birds that are just trans-Gulf boats. Do they go up over the Gulf and then back down around the Gulf? So we can't get information as the science improves, and it's pretty radio traction on some of these birds that have answered more questions about that. But I wanted to mention the petrels and along with other shorebirds. We don't normally think of us having shorebirds, right? But we do have shorebirds, just as the edges of lakes. And some of our shorebirds actually are grass living birds. And so they, like this bird, migrates from South America up through the grasslands of North America, up into the high Arctic, and then some of them even go over into Russia. And then they come back down through the grassland area in South America. It's a journey of about 19,000 miles trip. Our most famous one that doesn't have any relevance to Texas is our current about the same number of miles. So this little guy, I think it is our avian athlete, and they're already showing up often. Where do we see them? You can get lucky at Hornsby Dam, the solid waste treatment plant. That's the go-to place for shorebirds. Wendy Point, especially when the water level goes down, is another creek place to see it. Are we ever having flooded fields ever again? You can find birds there. This petrels in. So then we have, so those are all our birds that are here necessarily home to. They're not breeding materials this summer. And we have summer residents. These guys, summer tanagers, they're another red bird like the cardinal, but that's where you get to use your power of observation to decide you're the cardinal instead of tanager. They don't look a bit like they have postures. But they're just an interesting show. They'll show up really summer now. Having 2 birds that are really showing up. They've been around now for a couple of weeks at least. So listen for that. And they have white eyes and adults, so they're all adults right now. And then the other one is a tiny little bird, about 4.5 inches, with a long tail, and it's the Lutheran gnatcatcher, and it wheezes. And you can hear wheezing pretty much all over town right now if you start listening. This is a male, and how do I know it's a male? He has a little black eye. You know that. And then after breeding season, he can love it. Really, every bird I look at is my favorite bird for that one day. Here's this blue-tailed flycatcher, the state bird of Oklahoma. They're just now beginning to show up in Austin. They will be this year. And so will the John I walked. But We have our summer house, so they started showing up in the last few years. We have the Ruby Road, which is the one on the left, and the black chick on the right, and they're actually, obviously. They also have bird feeders, that put out a bird feeder. Be sure to
Growing. But I make my own. Yeah, it's such a.
So I have always probably.
Yeah. I make stuff that I can. It's really cool.
So, and I'll probably come back next year.
It's really cool. It's nice to see him. Yeah.
And they do show up all around town. It's really interesting. You can go there on Wednesday night. And, it's a normal night. I didn't see anybody yesterday. The next morning you go out and like, bing, you look at the online database. And everybody around town also has some really that day. So it's interesting how conditions are ideal right now. So there's our tropical looking bird, and they're not here yet. They don't usually show up. So that's our summer residence. They'll be here. And they're more golden sheep. I know what our golden sheep warbler. They're back. They're singing. They're trying to rise. Started rising the first March. And they're singing a song that's actually. Yes.
I'm not playing a song. I'm singing Scorpion and Book. I love snakes and reptiles.
And so they're doing pretty well, but they are endangered. And this one thing it has a little caterpillar in it now, and that is for most all of our castrations. That's it takes 6,000 to 9,000 caterpillars to raise a brood of chickadees. And that's pretty much true for all of our different birds. So what does that mean? It means we need to be okay with caterpillars. I can give this you read on so once you're not going to focus our lives and caterpillars. There are 450 different species of lepidopterus, so our butterflies are
there you go. I'm gonna have to come here and get a mushroom hat. Just paint myself white and put on the mushroom hat and bam, I'm a mushroom.
To spend about 4 months with us max.
Do you know the one after that?
No.
Oh, then it's the left.
So I sometimes do presentations about golden sheep and do with kids in that golden sheep. Well, which one of these people? I didn't say what characterizes the world. There's slender, they're pointed bills. Take a look at these two birds. And maybe also some connotation to the name of the bird. Sheep. So that helps. So this is the little what's this? Yes, it's a lesser goldfinch. So it's a male lesser goldfinch, actually. So that's the one that can be mistaken. They'll say, yeah, it's going right here. Gold Chiefs don't come with you, they are gonna only in captivity. So the last bird is kind of an example of experiential bird, is to go and watch Purple Martin at Purple Martin Colony. And the best one is in the South Office. And she's got half a whole office, like full of Purple Martin. And she keeps track. Her neighborhood monitor the dogs, look at the gourds and take for productivity. And then she has a traffic officer party in the morning. Party first in June. They're the most gorgeous swallow. This is the male. They come back. Crazy birds from February, sometimes they come back before our freeze. But anyway, this is what happened in July. The martins have migratory groups and they gather in numbers. And they're usually lately have been out in lockdown and they gather into a bunch of trees. I'm jogging, doing down here, people just come in, and they all jog in their position, and you do have some practices to be after. But it's a sight to see, and I recommend that this coming summer, you go to a Purple Martin party at California. Just take your umbrella and go in town. You're right. They're really great birds. So in conclusion, if you like birds, or if you're thinking maybe like birds, we have a lights out campaign that's Audubon. Lights out at night because birds have a tendency to be blind and they wake up in the morning and they're kissing birds. So that'll have a lot. I don't know what on here, but another thing is reduce or don't use pesticide. We're seeing our owl population, our regular owl population in Austin. Neighborhoods we should find, and that's when people use rat poison and kill the rat. Native plants that can really help with providing the insects that are birds. Cats indoors, and we had a crazy test list if you visit the Travis Audubon Birds in the Pleiades. List of plants that we really recommend to help birds. If you do not try the merlin, because everybody tries the merlin, you go around town with your phone and recording birds, and they'll tell you what you try to identify the birds out. It's not 100% accurate. Just tell you that it's a tool. You have to look at it and see if you can find the bird that it says you're hearing. Travis County Birds Facebook, if you're a photographer or you want to select it, Facebook County Birds, Travis County Birds is the name of it. That's a good thing to subscribe to. And then join Travis Audubon. We have lots of people that classes, bird classes.
Yellow Chief Warbler, Bull Creek, they closed off some light trails out there.
Well, Bull Creek, the one out at the Forest Ridge on a railing, well, there's none that says, however, if you visit their website, the last two, this year and last year, they're doing an experiment and they're seeing if it's really affecting the bird, and they say, even though the sign says there's a permit required, there is a permit. You just have to read through the regulation, don't bring the dog, don't have a family with people. It's not like disturbance. There is some evidence that any kind of disturbance goes back with birds. But yeah, you can go, if you go on it, let's say Aurelia Pass, or Aurelia Drive. Aurelia Drive.
I'm going to say, I'm at the Bull Creek Foundation, we confirmed this with the city, so just what Jane said, that Bull Creek Preserve called Forest Ridge is open to the public. It's normally been restricted. You had to get a permit during warm nesting season, but this year, the pilot program that Jane just described, and we confirmed that. They said that they've got counters at the trail entrances. And if they see really large volumes of people, like more than 200 in a day, and we're not even close to that, they may have to revisit keeping it open. But right now, it is open, and it's one of the best wildlife habitats.
I have one right at the entrance, yeah.
And there are two entrances. One is behind Chester Estates off of Aurelia Drive that Jane mentioned. And the other one is off Loop 360 on Winding Ridge. You can enter a preserve there, and that's actually a great spot.
Yeah, I go trailrunning over there, so yeah, we have a small group that goes every now and then, very kind of bummed. Every year we're like, oh, it's such a great spot to go, but it's a small group, so I feel like,
I can't remember what the number is. Do they restrict it to like 7?
Yeah, so I mean, if your group is under 10,
okay,
you should be okay. I mean, you shouldn't be going back there with a large group of 20 people. We actually may lead a walk in April back there, and we would limit it.
I'm curious on the survival rate of those longer breathing patterns or those who think they go from Alaska all the way to South Surf. There's well, there are Yankees backpack transmitters, like the swing back the one that has in Constitution. And so there's some evidence, there that you can do bird banding and figure out survival rates, how if a bird is recovered, but it's interesting for different birds. Really crazy Rochester. If we have trees like this, north wind is favorable south wind, and all of a sudden we have a straight north wind. If the birds are not over there, a lot of the trees fall and stuff. So then sort of you then going around the belt makes a lot of sense. That has a whole other set of
Jane Tillman, everybody, with the chat. We're going to get a few writers up here in just a moment to share some bird poetry. I see a few of you in the crowd. Well, first we have Jen Bristol, park ranger and author. Give it up, guys.
Thanks, y'all. I first want to give a big shout out to Juan and Rosemary, who I think is back there, former neighbors of mine, and I just want to say I have a brand new book out, just came out in February, and there's a beautiful photo spread here of Rosemary painting. And she kicks off, so the book is Wild Women for Good, Stories of Conservation in Texas, and she kicks off the storytellers. So, woo! I do, yeah, I have copies in the back. So, I am an author. I am also a bird guide. I also run a small foundation called the Victor Emanuel Nature Scholarship Fund to send kids to birding camps. Everything in my life is about birds. Member of Travis Audubon, big supporter of their work. And my first book that I came out with is called Parking Lot Birding. The second book is called Cemetery Birding. And they're all just cool places to go birding around Texas. And so why did I want to write a book about parking lot birding and cemetery birding? Well, I worked for Texas Parks and Wildlife for 10 years, and I ran their Children in Nature program. And while I was involved with them, I did all these big research studies. One was with Yale University, and in that, we surveyed parents, individuals, and also children themselves. And what parents unilaterally told us was, hey, you know what, I know I need to get my kids outdoors, I know I need to be outdoors, but I'm not really sure what to do when I get there, especially in a state park. It's big, I'm not really sure where to go, I don't know what I'm going to see, I need a little bit of direction. So that was one thing they were telling us. The other, the other thing that they were telling us was that they had kind of a memory of nature, but they themselves were no longer connected to it. And so they were having a harder time connecting their children with it. Now, I got to go to the focus groups, and I'm going to do a little focus group on golf. Because I got to sit behind the glass. How many of you have ever participated in a focus group? It's kind of cool. But when I went, I couldn't wear my stadium park uniform. I had to park the truck way around the corner. Nothing to tip them off about what we were going to talk about that day. So, the first question that they asked people was, and I'm going to have you close your eyes. And when I say the word nature, I want you to hold something in your mind, and now go ahead and open your eyes. How many of y'all thought of a tree? A lot of you. Probably because there's a tree right outside the window. How many of you thought of the beach? Nobody. How many of you thought of the rainforest? The mountains? A couple people in the mountains? Okay, good. How many of you thought of the Discovery Channel? Nobody? Those are the top 5 answers that thousands of people gave us. And in that, there was also another one that was a grandparent's farm, somewhere far away that they could no longer access. And with the exception of the tree, none of those things that I just described were in their immediate day-to-day life living here in Texas, unless they lived down on the coast. And so we realized at Texas Parks and Wildlife, we got a lot of work to do. And so I took all that information back and started working on that, but how can we use that to better connect children with nature? And I thought, well, gosh, I'm doing everything I can in my public life. What more could I be doing in my private life? And around that same time, I became a bird. I was really late to the birding party. I got bucked off my horse. I had a very serious back injury, and I needed something slower to do because in my mind, being outdoors meant hiking as fast as I could, running, swimming, riding my horse, like being super active. Juan and Rosemary can attest, it also means like working with my chainsaw out on my property, that kind of thing, right? And so I needed something a little slower to do. And my husband Thomas took me out on a birding safari, and it was actually a photo safari, and I took some pictures of birds, and I fell absolutely head over heels in love with their beauty. And I'm looking at the art over here. I find them intriguing and beautiful and mystical and all of those things every single time I see them. I went up birding this morning, saw 30 species. We did not see a golden cheek warbler, but boy, did we hear a lot of other cool stuff. And at that point I was hooked. Then I came across this wonderful thing called the Great Texas Birding Classic. How many of y'all have ever heard of that? How many of y'all seen the movie Blisters? Oh my God, go home immediately and watch that tonight. I don't care what else you do, go and watch it. It is hilarious. It will make you, it is, yes, so funny. And I'll just tell you the premise of it. The guy gets really high and decides he wants to see every bird in his bird book. There, no spoiler, now you really have to go watch it. Yeah, it's really funny. So, but I was like, oh my gosh, wait, are you telling me there's a birding competition? Like, just still my overly competitive part, sign me up, let's go. And we started our journey on this bird competition. The first years we were absolutely rubbish. And when I say we, I mean my husband and my mom and myself. But because I had this idea to see the birds, we had to go to the furthest point away from people. But inevitably, as we got closer to the parking lot, or the campus of the bird center, or the hawk tower, or a bird line, we started seeing more birds. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form advocate for more parking lots. Actually, quite the opposite. But it is in those contrived spaces that we can actually see the birds better and good. So I think Thomas said, we should write a book called Parking Lot Birding, and so that's what I did. And on the cover, yes, these are grapples. I call them parking lot royalty. And you can see them in parking lots pretty much everywhere. And the reason I wanted to write it was to answer that question of what do I do when I get there? And so, I took all this to heart, and I, really tried at each location. These are the birds you're going to see in the different seasons. You're going to see them, and when you get there, go and do these things. It's pretty easy. I took everything in the research and I tried to answer the question as much as I could. And with each location, I try to end it with a beautiful word that you might see there. Let's see if I can actually open up a page to one. That's going to be a little bit of a harder to see. Here's our friend, the ruby-throated hummingbird.
I'll hold the book open for you.
I think I got it here. Thank you. You're so sweet now.
Check.
Normally I don't even talk to the microphone. I'm like super loud. So, but I try to put little facts there for you to dazzle your friends with. Sitting around the campfire, and you can have a couple little facts. Same thing with cemetery birding. While I was writing parking lot birding, it was coming out April 20th. 2020. Who remembers what they were doing on that? COVID! We were all sitting around figuring out what to watch on Netflix, right? So it comes out, and meanwhile I'm writing another book had already started Wild Women for Good, and I decided to step on the gas and write cemetery birding, because I couldn't get down to the research libraries, I couldn't do interviews like that. And cemeteries were really safe for me to get out to. I'd already fallen in love with them. They're wonderful ecological wonderlands. I just can't say enough things about them. There's also beautiful artwork in each one of the historic cemeteries especially. My real goal to write both of those books was to help people understand that you can have rich and immersive experiences in nature. You don't have to go to the beach. You don't have to go to the mountains. You don't have to go to these faraway places. It can be immediate. It can be the tree outside the window. And as Jane said earlier, live oak trees, those are the HEBs. We're looking at HEB right here. We're like in the produce department, and we're in the meat department of HEB for birds. Live oaks have insects that are on them all year round. They're wonderful. If you have a live oak in your tree, in your yard, go say thank you to it. Pecans are the other ones. We'll call them maybe the Berkshire Brothers. You know where that is? Yeah. Those are out east. So you can have those like deep and rich experiences in nature, but you don't have to go to a faraway place. And so that's really what I wanted to come out now. Wild Women for Good, like I said, it just came out in February, and it's all about women and conservation. And it opens up with saving the birds. In Texas, we have to do conservation a little bit different here in the state, because 95% of our lands are privately owned. And so that means only 5% is publicly owned for the rest of us to share. So we have to be a little innovative. And there's great stories in the state about women that have taken on that challenge and met some astronomical challenges along the way and overcome them. So that's, I'm going to keep it quick because I know we have some poets coming up. But I do have the books on sale back here, and you can come chat with me about things. I am a birder, and you can ask me anything, but I'll tell you this, I might not know as much as Jane. But I do love them, and we are sitting with front row seats to spring migration. Just like Jane said, every morning when you wake up this time of year, there's something new out there. There's something new in the yard. There's something new at Bull Creek. So I invite you to get out and go witness the largest migration in the world.
Jen Bristol, everybody, give it up. Author. Thank you all for being here. Alright, so the party's later. Hey everybody, thank you all so much for being here at Burning Man 2026, the first annual Burning Man. How that's selected. I'm Bob Peck. I'm a writer and a philosopher and a lawn care enthusiast. How are we all doing today? I really love creativity. I love nature. I love Bryan Olivas, Roscoe, and Juan Davis, Rosemary Davis, Cameron Kennedy, and I love birds. So here I am. We are surrounded by absolutely incredible pieces of bird art, both by local artists as well as artists from all over the country. So please, let's support them. After the writer segment, get up, see the beauty in this gallery, buy one of Jen's books, and
You can vote on your favorite piece.
you can vote on your favorite piece in the back. There's a lot of things going on. You can join the Travis Audubon Society. Please buy a piece, or a print, or even just share and tag. Those are the 3 tiers, actually, from a pricing standpoint, of how to support a local art. I'm in the print tier right now. I'm working really hard. I'm trying to get to the original piece. Okay, I'm very glad to kick off a handful of Austin writers. Thank you guys. We just want to share our appreciation for our avian friends. Thank you. So here goes. I got them birds, so many birds, it is absurd. So many colors, they look like nerds. Sorry, no, that was by Lil Wayne. Hang on. Okay. All right, sorry, this is me. That was the prologue. I'm the one who put the bird seed in the feeder. You don't need to fly away afraid of me. But I understand. My ancestors have captured and ate you for 1 million years. And I had a chicken sandwich yesterday. I'm sorry. I'm trying to eat less meat, but my muscles have a condition that need protein. It's not personal. I appreciate you. And your songs. Your peaceful presence in nearby trees awakens our own sense of peace in this moment. We both love the sun and the wind blowing through the leaves. I'm sorry for all the hunters. I'm sorry for all the cages. When you're flying high above the green and blue, you see this planet as it is, one. You remind us to safeguard our young. Your guidance helps your little ones grow and learn to fly. Your dedication to building and maintaining our nests on a windy branch shows us resilience. You seek partners in romance and attract lovers with dance and song. We're not that different. My songs are less beautiful, but my presence is growing in strength thanks to your reminders.
All right. I brought a bird bag. And that's absolutely not going to go back home. And my home has something to do with birds, but it's also about something else. I was only 7 years old when I went to Gaza to visit my father's family. I remember my uncle's farm, like my soul had visited that place before. Acres of orchards, animals, the smell of citrus trees basking in the sun. I remember thinking with the innocence of a child, why would anyone ever leave this place? My cousins were breeding lovebirds then, hundreds of them. Little flashes of color and sound. Green, yellow, blue, peach, red. Singing from their walk-in cage. I didn't know that was the thing a teenager could do. Raise birds. Take care of that many small living things just for the love of the game. There were peacocks too. They were my favorite. Roaming freely across the land. No shame in their brilliance. Just these impossible birds, dragging little galaxies behind them. And as a simple boy from Buffalo, New York, I remember seeing all of this and feeling something I wouldn't have had words for then. Not just beauty and abundance and deep connection to the land, but the kind of belonging that reveals why our family never quite fit in the suburbs. The kind of belonging you feel in your bones that tells your body you are home. And then the years did what the years do, and empires did what empires do, and in just the past couple of years, those buildings were reduced to rubble by a military force. The orchards were plowed, occupied. A farm that took generations of love to tend to, reduced to rubble in days. This is one of the unbearable things about the war. It does not only kill the living, it tries to make you doubt that the place you loved was ever really there to begin with. But then the other day, I was visiting home, and my father showed me a video on his phone. And there they were, peacocks, roaming freely through that unrecognizable landscape. My uncle's farm reduced to mounds of dirt, the building's gone, the field's broken open, nothing in sight except for these impossible birds. And still they pranced through that barren landscape, just as proud as their peacock ancestors who I met 30 years ago, as if to say, you can destroy our home, but you cannot erase us. That video has stayed with me. It's made me laugh through the tears. Because in Palestine, even the birds seem to understand something the world still refuses to learn. Life does not always resist by fighting back. Sometimes it just resists by continuing, by singing, by nesting, by returning. A few months ago, I found out that my cousin, now pushing 50, living in the States, was thinking about buying lovebirds. He was going to start breeding them again. To me, it sounded like a soul retrieval. Like the farmer in him was finding his way back. A man buying lovebirds in exile. Because some part of him never stopped hearing them sing. So when I think of all of this senseless, man-made destruction, I do not only think of what was lost. I think of peacocks walking proudly through the rubble. I think of lovebirds, raised on a family farm and then raised again decades later across an ocean. Not because they got out unscathed, but because even in the ruin, they still make nests.
Thank you, sir. Get a Roma. Get it up. Woo-hoo. Beautiful. Thank you, Ron. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for that. And I'll just take a breath in real quick. I think that means I can like sit. Whoever wants to breathe in with me. And breathe out. It's beautiful it can be here and share language and poetry and stories, especially amongst all this beautiful art.
I don't know if she's tried everything.
Let's see. The first poem I have is called "Is It Bird Enough?" Proposal for a nature streaming service. Within the building, sounds happen buried in my earbuds. They originate centimeters from my body and muffle the daily passage of coworkers cracking cans of seltzer and periodically clapping. The celebratory sound fills exposed ceilings and reverberates on corners of the floor plan, which someone at some point has probably measured. Outside, I imagine replacing the electric bug in my canal with a soundscape of invisible birds that periodically chirp. The singing song that would erase all memories of all offices for all time, for everybody. Entering a grove of trees shuffled in blessings, plug into an endless bird program. Hear them tune their instruments of biology to pierce distance. With sounds behind and trills out of reach, and rapid passings, how fast is the call with a flash of the blur of light and feather? The birds communicate whether or not I'm listening. I like to peer, to cut my hands, my ear, over my brow, blocking the sun, increasing the sound. My eyes failing to break camouflage, I find, needing no identification. Birds saying, yes, no, food, okay, let's fuck. Hello, look at me, oh, watch out, predator, cat, look, I'm beautiful. I enjoy singing, listen here, hear me mimic, hear me from above. Without seeing them, the tweeds and corrals say the world is everywhere, at many distances, and within the brainwaves of the owl is the view of you from a tree. And it's not unusual for it at all. It sings who into the air like it always has. Walls like paywalls block air, reverberations are stunted. Trees seem unreal in a window that you can minimize, unlike the origin co-evolved in this surround sound. Like a nest of density, I was already signed up to receive the greatest hits, the oldies, bluebirds, and the eternally subscribed stream of nature. Really? What it is, let me tell you. The real point of this is that I'm realizing, sitting inside this building, my office, behind the window with the keys, is that I don't want to live a life where everything is waiting for me to press play, to make a choice, to cue life, like experiences happen only between me and the monitor via the reflection of my will and desire and that of the streaming services shareholders. Give us nature's algorithm. In all the places we can't see, birds can keep their secrets in the brush and the tree. For Earth Day, we can chant Ox privilege and let go of control, simply marveling at the reminder that the world sets its own muses in key. Sparrows chirp and scrub jays bloom, sing every inch of surface is alive, and its will to live exudes in breath and sound.
Yeah!
Give it up, guys. A couple more posts before our intermission. We have August Smith. Give it up, guys. August, get on over here.
Thank you. Hello. We need a round of applause for Bryan and Bob. Others should hold this out and all the paintings, bird stuff. I got 4 bird poems I wrote for this. No, but they're quick. I'll whip through them. Don't worry. I didn't know there was okay. We'll just go with it. First one's called Carrie. Do you remember when I led you by hand through the brambles of the briar, along the brim of the backwater basin where once we tended to wander, and the boat we tipped broadside in brackish surrender, and us hand in hand, both bewildered, unbothered? You'll notice there were no birds in that poem, but there were in the first draft. And they kind of flew away after I edited too much. But they landed in a different poem. This poem's called I Don't Trust Birds. When Bryan told me to write some bird poems for this, I said, I'm going to write a poem called I Don't Trust Birds. And he was like, okay, that sounds good, but there will be a lot of people who really like birds. But it didn't deter me. Of the future, we can be certain of one thing. It's lousy, with life's branching paths, and on each branch a bird is perched in solemn judgment. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe they have hatred in that little boring heart. Yes, a hatred most foul, a burning castle of worms and waste at the center of the breast of the cardinal, who's like a red-hot poker in my bespectacled eye, gazing out my front window at their cavorting and gaiety. For yes, my friends, it's true that I was but a mere child when a bird betrayed me. Have you ever seen a toucan sleep? Their absurd beak tucked flush along its back and buried in long feathers of black, as though guiltily anticipating a retaliatory attack? Whom did you wrong, O toucans of the world, that you shirk from their blade? For it's true, yes, deadly true, that I was but a mere baby, swaddled in heather gray and robin's egg blue, when a bird stole everything from me, everything. Worm and twig and seed. For yes, my colleagues, there exist three worlds, the human world, the God world, and the bird world, and all three are competing for total dominion over me, and humans are losing, and God is too gracious to win. It's all true. I was but an embryo when the birds of all the land betrayed me and flew off in a dark and undulating cloud, the combined thrust of their wings ripping the world like wet tissue. I was nothing more than an idea at the time. I was but a precursor to anything. And what I really needed from the birds was a firm handshake. Indeed, my friends, I was nothing, and they, the birds, they were not. Thank you. The experiment called I Trust Birds Now. I apologize for my outburst earlier. My relationship to birds has changed vastly in the intervening moments. How, you ask? Well, like most things in my life, I realized that the problem has nothing to do with birds. Certain things transpired that I'm only now beginning to unpack. And while birds were involved, and perhaps even toucans pulled the strings, I understand now that their actions were a product of their position in various systems of the world, and that we all are playing a part in the perpetration of these things. And I never understood those drinking birds. They're kind of like toys for adults, perched on the brim of a glass of sherry, hypnotically dunking their wicked little tip into the surface of the liquid. What's up with those? You've seen them in movies and cartoons, but have you ever seen one in real life? I have not. They seem kind of Swedish. What are those supposed to be? Birds don't drink like that. Who are they fooling with their idiotic dance? I'm glad I know that I'm going to be positive towards birds, but it got away from me. I had a really good interaction yesterday. I was getting a haircut, and my hairdresser was like, "What are your plans for the weekend?" And I said, "I'm reading some bird poems at a bird art event." And she said, "Birds? I love birds." I said, "I know, they fly." She said, "Yeah, and they sing." It was a perfect interaction. It completely made me think. I wish all conversations were like that. One more. This was called Earlier Today, but I put it on Thursday. Earlier today, I looked out my window and my garbage can was tipped over, so I went outside and put it upright. And a bunch of pale, wriggling maggots tumbled out and writhed in the sunlight, and I was like, ew. So I went back inside. I thought maybe a dog would eat them, or they would wiggle away and become adults and would reward my merciful nature by not bothering me when I'm having tea on my porch, because usually things work out in my favor without much effort. And then an hour later, I saw two birds eating the maggots, and I thought, that's like killing two birds with one stone, which almost makes sense, but not really. And life continued in its blurry, surprising way, and I kept connecting things mostly by accident. Thank you so much.
Everybody. St. Howard, you're gonna close us out, you know?
Well, I officially feel totally out of my league. That's in every way, words, art, poetry. But I'm honored to be here. Thank you guys for having me. My name is Caitlin. Working title for this, I was invited by Bob to write something that no one's ever heard. I hadn't shared anywhere yet, so this is about a day old. I guess I would call it what I've learned from the birds as of today, written before I got here. Could I possibly have an original thought to offer about something that I hardly know? Why bother? Of birds, surely everything that could be dreamt into speaking has already been noticed and mentioned by now. I am late to this party, although it happens every day. They kick things off at dawn with an open invitation sent my way. So whoever may have been there, done that first, today will be my day to say yes to the birds. I will get to know you better. But I refuse to use Google or ChatGPT. I will follow them with my whole body, a bloodless hunter walking gently in the grassy wake of their flight patterns to observe and contemplate the way my ancestors did. Come slowly to my own interpretations, because isn't that what a poet does? Is this a poem? Today, I dedicate all of my words to listening to what the birds might teach me, above and beyond what I currently understand. But first, would it be worth the risk of repetition to explore the shore of what I already know? Okay, let's go. I arrived home from a trip about 1 year ago, and the airport was closed in a murder of crows. Yes, as far as I know, only the Crow Gang gets to don this ominous moniker for their collective outfit, a massive black flock posted up in dark rows. A murder, she wrote. Whoa. And I know that I woke from a dream last summer with a voice in my mind that spoke these words very clearly. She who can see through different points of view is given the line of sight, the bird's eye view. I might spend my whole life pondering this gift from the messengers who soar on heights that catch the sights of every imaginable perspective. What compassion it must be. I aspire to see like the birds. And I know that the rooster seems to be the Hollywood director of this production we call life. Like Zeus, god of the ground birds, he struts his tiny head amongst the commoner, siring demigods. He cock-a-doodle does his commencement call, and the whole feathered nation responds, resuming their role in this grand activation that happens every day, lights, camera, action. And so it goes, creatures known in both silence and song animate the world with sound. Like right now, the infancy of chittering spring is born again, commingling with the telephones ringing and the click-clack of keyboards over morning coffee. Oblivious, we drown out their orchestral weavings of this temporal tapestry. As the timeless question begs, which came first, the chicken or the egg? All I can say is the sun rises with the birds, and that is no coincidence. Today, they tempt me to pay attention to what is happening behind the curtain. Will I listen? I also know that once upon a time I stumbled online into learning that we humans cannot really see the true color of the blue jay, that their brightest feathers are actually a shade on a part of a spectrum of light that is invisible to our eyes. And I haven't fact-checked this, but it really got me thinking how birds draw our attention to the mystery and its unanswerable questions like, Mommy, why is the sky blue? The answer, it isn't. That's just the way we see it. Vivid blue, our beloved illusion, backdrop for the birds like the jay, mirror of our projections, just as the ocean reflects the sky. In the air, perhaps the birds swim to them. And it's only to us that they fly. While we bottom feeders stay in our lane of narrow minds, trapped in tunnel vision, blinded like ants by the relative size of our perceptual limitations.
I already knew these things, I think, but today I watched the birds again and I learned the way that they teach mathematics and nature, that all geometry is sacred, the significance of nest making, how to be utterly forgettable and breathtakingly special, all in one day, in 1 hour, in 1 minute. And how, when modern women were cursed with the duty to perform beauty, we must have stolen the secret talent of men. The birds encourage us, as they strut their stuff, to give this ritual back. They are proof, after all, that we really do deserve better. And it is his pleasure to earn your affection. Let him dance for it, honey. At the same time, they teach us how to be an invisible presence, known first in identity by the song that you sing, while valuing the anonymity of call and response, echo as confirmation, a code of existence. That we've all got to explore our own upper limits for ourselves, and they are much, much farther out than we think. The birds know little of boundaries. They laugh at our lines of territory. They would rather combine in telepathy, lose themselves in unity, obey the lost art of congregation and synchronization, the only murder that equates to more life. Their movements are a map for how to sacrifice yourself to the horizon heart first. And they showed me today that when I opened my arms like wings, I remember that my feathers became fingers and my wingspan must have evolved into my hands, so when I am making anything, I must be flying. And that's why it's called flow state. The birds remind me in this way that anything is possible. Like maybe I do have something worthwhile to say about what the words, oh my God, about what the birds have taught me as of today.
Thank you.
In and out, everybody. That wraps it up with the writing section. Running out of August, Sarah, Roma, in and now. I'm Bob. Bryan Olivas and Cameron produced this educational section, and we're also going to take an intermission. It's about an hour or so. One's nodding, so not in trouble. We're going to do about an hour of letting these guys kind of reset, and then we'll have a party tonight, costume party. We got bird cocktails. DJ Chappie Funk is spinning records, so hopefully we'll see y'all tomorrow night.